So there was a huge flood in 1815, 1825. So if given its own druthers in a couple hundred years, it might pick a different route. Now that it's in concrete, it doesn't have that option. In the last glacial period, these were the erosion channels coming in from the Ballona. Going to more modern times, Gabrielino moved in here around 2,000 years or so ago. And back then, the Ballona was a year-round river that was just a beautiful, lush spot that they lived by. One of the religious commandments that they had from their primary god was to bathe every morning in running water. So that constrained where they lived. They had to live next to running water. And fortunately, there was plenty of it back then. Their villages, Mahomogna, that's up by the Arroyo Seco. Here's up by Griffith Park. These are all encampments and villages that they had. This is from Seeking Streams book, and this is a depiction of the course. Here we see the LA River split at this point, going out to Ballona, as well as down the LA Channel. Here we are right here, this bend. And then, because of that flood, they split, and so the LA River formed its own channel, and then eventually civilization arrived. Woohoo! Along with us. So this is my favorite map of the era. This is from 1880, and it really shows the Ballona Creek course coming up through here. So this would be, I think, Ferndale coming up through here. Here's Los Feliz up in here, Silver Lake, Echo Park. One interesting thing to note, and this is not necessarily a 100% accurate map, but you'll see we have the streams coming down from the mountains, from the Griffith Park, Santa Monica Mountains, and then they disappear. This is because this is all alluvium, and so it just soaks into the ground and then pops back up again a mile later. Here's a zooming in a little bit more. This would be, I think, the Ferndale branch. This is a better job than any other map, old map I've seen of showing the route. That was 1880. This is a little bit later. This is about 1900 or so. And we begin to get the city built out. Look at this marvelous wetland here.
Close to the ocean.
Yeah.
Close to the ocean.
There was just water everywhere. Look at there's ponds and lakes here. Just water everywhere, swampland. This is about 10 years later already. How much things are just getting built up. The channel first went in, started up with 1931. Before the famous floods of the 1930s, they were already concerned, this would be this Culver City area, about how inconvenient it was when you build a house right on top of the creek, that the creek just kind of undermines your house and the house falls into the creek. And so here we are today. 95% of the area is urbanized. All the pink is urban area. And what they say is that in an urban area, 55% of the water becomes runoff. And in infrared, the greenery shows up as red. So we can see just how lacking in red these areas are. We've got golf courses, pretty much most of the big red areas. This little backyards is mostly with that pink stuff you see. Just wanted to point out the flood situation. So this is what happens when that atmospheric river hits us. LA is feast or famine when it comes to water. There's no average year. LA supposedly gets about 14 inches on average, if there were such a thing. The mountains get twice that or more. LA is not a desert, it is a swamp, is its natural form. But it's getting that water from the mountains. It's not necessarily water falling right here. When it comes in big pulses. Here's a depiction of the aquifers that underlie the area. This is the fault line that is one of the major separators, and it's right here. We're right on top of it, or probably somewhere here. The aquifers in Los Angeles are managed. All the water that's in them is owned by somebody. Some water districts put water in, and then they take it back out again, and that's all controlled. Here in Downey, when they put in the 105 freeway, they dug down below the water table, as it turned out, to put in the freeway because they wanted to be less visible. Now they have to dispose of hundreds of acre feet a year, millions of gallons of water, because otherwise the freeway would flood. So it is just pumped out treated and dumped into the LA River. So there's a real issue with how you handle the aquifers, and it's not just natural. These are managed aquifers. This is Jessica Hall's work, finding areas. These are some of the streams that she's identified as being potential daylightable streams. She's very fond of Sacatella, which goes up into Silver Lake, Los Feliz, passes, I believe, under the Shakespeare Bridge, the Ferndale stream coming down through here, and she's calling that Mid-Bronson. They just came up with these names. I don't know how. They had a, we're calling it the Upper Ballona Watershed. Elsewhere they call it Ballona Valley. There's a current project, I believe, in West Hollywood where they're putting in an apartment building, and for the convenience of the parking garage going down, they want to go down below the water table and start doing a daily pump. So we want to have water in the water table to sustain springs and the natural course of things. On the other hand, we want to have water in the stream to keep the wetlands going. What happened with that freeway project is at one point the water table was much lower, so the engineers came through, they said, oh, we don't have to worry about water table. And then the water manager said, hey, here we can store all this water right in the aquifer, so let's dump more, recharge the aquifer. So different engineering projects aren't hearing what the whole water plan is and get, in some cases, blindsided, but also that you get just short-sighted views of saying, well, we need to put in the gas thing, so we're just going to dump all this water out. This is